Mic check, mic check. Okay, so this looks like I am live streaming now. All right, so let's. Okay, hi guys. This is just a really quick video demonstration of our immersive solstice management and what the options are in HSEC for how we could keep organized our 170 HSEC devices in the system. And so, what you're looking at right now is the most basic level. This is the IP of one particular immersive solstice device, I believe. Well, it says right here, this is the Moose 1430 that we've got in one of our legacy spaces. So, if you were to take the device itself and plug in a USB cable and plug in a display so that you could see the screen, you could actually just navigate with your mouse. Let's start this over again. Let's stop the screen. Okay, mic check, mic check. Yep, I've got audio, and it looks like we're recording. Okay, so hi, good morning. This is a really quick video talking about our immersive solstice deployment in the HSEC project, and specifically talking about how we could organize ourselves or organize the devices, how we could manage the devices, and what options are available to us here. So what you're looking at right now is 10.24.10.78. That's a specific device. That's the Solstice unit that's in Moose 1430 right now. So it's one of the ones that we deployed as a part of our pilot project back in fall 2019. And so at a most basic level, if you've got a unit, you could install it, see it's on the display, and then plug in a mouse via USB. And you could just click on the settings gear here, and that takes you to the configuration page for this device. The other way, the way I'm doing it right now, is that I've got the device on the network, and I'm just navigating to its IP. So two different ways for the basic set. Just plug in, hardwired, or navigate to its IP. Get down to this gear setting here, and it's going to ask for a password because I've set this up with a password. This is just for security sake, since this is on the network. Oh, I think I typed in the wrong password. Let's try that again. Whoa, why is my password not working? There we go. All right, third time's a charm. Okay, so here we are. This is the basic configuration page. So you've got what's the name of the device, or in other words, when it pops up on the screen, what is it called? Right, so it's not just for your own organization, but what people will see. So we've got it set up as the room name, and that this is wireless presentation. One of the reasons we did that was in some of these rooms, this was taking the place of a laptop input. And so we wanted people to understand right away they are able to wirelessly present in this room. We've got an appearance management here, so we've got a splash screen that we've installed with some instructions on how to use the unit. We've got to set the time and date properly first. If this isn't set, it doesn't work right. So we just need to make sure that it's on the correct time date. These are other details that you're going to want to take a look at. For the most part, we're using screen share, application Windows screen share, Android and iOS mirroring is enabled, and so then access control is another thing you're going to look at. Enable screen key. So this is where we turn on the 4-digit PIN. So that's a basic setting for us, and this disable moderator approval. So right now, anyone can connect to our units and start sharing, and then an instructor could say, okay, everyone stop, I'm going to be the moderator. And they would just behave like a moderator, but they're not the actual moderator. There is a way to lock down so that there is a moderator. So we're keeping that off right now. So anyway, I don't really want to talk too much about settings. I really just want to talk about things that you could do on this device. One of the things you're going to want to do right away after naming it is go to your network you want to enable Ethernet, okay? Because we want to be hardlined on campus, and you want to disable the wireless. You don't want these units to create their own wireless access point, okay? Because that's what they can do. You could set up wireless here, and then it will create its own WAP, and then devices could connect to it. But the problem is the devices connected to that WAP won't get any network access. Okay. So having said that, I got to stop this. All right, are we running? Mic check, mic check. Okay, I got audio. Looks like we're recording. Okay, hi. Hi guys. This is going to be just a quick, I hope, video about our immersive solstice deployment and management in the HSEC project and the 3 different options you have for managing your devices. And so I'm not going to really go over configuration settings too much, although I might talk about some items to let you know how much easier it is to do it in one option versus another option. But having said that, really this is just about the 3 different ways you can manage your devices. Okay, so you're looking right now the splash screen of a specific device, Moose 1430 wireless presentation. So this is what we've called one of the Solstice devices in our pilot project that we had installed back in the fall of 2019. So when you install a immersive Solstice device, and you can now see it on the screen, and you've given it some kind of network, at a most basic level, plug in a USB mouse and just mouse down to this gear, and that takes you to configuration. So you're literally plugged into the device, and you can configure it that way, and you configure them one at a time. That's one way. The other way, though, which is a little easier because you don't have to move around, is if you've given them all network, whether it's temporary network or whatnot, you can just go to its IP and get to that same page, and then over the network configure. So this is version 1. Go into each device and configure each device one at a time. No big deal. And so because all of the Solstice devices in HSEC are already properly set up on network, that's an easy thing to do. So what you're going to do is click on the gear. I'm just going to wait for one quick second here. It's asking me for a password, because I've password protected the pilot project ones. One of them got nailed one day, so we sort of password protected all of them. Okay, so this is what the basic configuration page looks like now for a single device. The display tab is where you give it its name, what people will see. You give it its splash page when it comes up on the screen. What does it look like? What kind of instructions are you providing people when they're looking at the screen? Things like how are things shared to it? One of the most important things, you got to properly set the time and date. That's one of the, if you don't do that correctly, it's one of the reasons why things don't work properly, and I discovered that kind of frustratingly late one time. The other thing, network. Now, I think for the most part, we shouldn't have to worry about this, but you do want to become familiar with it anyway with your own devices. You want Ethernet turned on because we are hardlined, and you want wireless turned off. The units themselves are able to create a wireless access point so that devices can share to it wirelessly, even if it's not taking any internet. The problem, of course, is that devices don't get network access because the devices aren't connected to an actual internet. They're just connected to the WAP of this particular device. So we turn it off. We don't want people connecting to the wireless access point that the Solstices create. Okay? This Solstice base port 53100, that's basic. It's default. Leave it as is. Okay. Anyway, you've got some tools here, right? So you could download the client, which is downloading from the device the software that a laptop needs to connect to the device. Does that make sense? So right now, when you connect to a device for the first time as a user and it says need the app, click here. You're clicking on that thing and you're grabbing it from here basically so that the user can start working with it. So that's what this is. SDS installer, this is the discovery service. This is the reason that somebody walks into a room. If they already have the app, they open the app on their device and they see a list of Solstice devices they can connect to. it's the Solstice Discovery Service that is generating that list. So we register all of the units to the Solstice Discovery Service, and then that makes it available over the network. So instead of people having to know IP addresses, they can really just look at, oh, Moose 1430. That's the room I'm in right now. That's the one I want to connect to. So the Solstice Discovery Service is important. HST has set up our server that's hosting our Solstice Discovery Service, and we've pointed for classroom services, we've pointed all of our solstices to it. And for libraries and simulation and student services, they will get pointed to that discovery service as well. It just might not yet be configured. So that's one of the tasks that you're going to want to sort of do, is to make sure things are pointing to the Solstice Discovery Service so that end users have an easier time figuring out which Solstice is in the room that they're in. Okay, and then updates and licensing. So we want to make sure all the firmware on our units are updated, and this is where that would occur. So here it would be your versions up to date. If it wasn't up to date, there would be a link there. Okay, having said that, no big deal. That's what you can do from inside the device itself. The next level, I'm going to just minimize this, is called the Solstice Dashboard. This is free. So the first one was free because it's literally talking to the device you just bought. Solstice Dashboard is also a free piece of software that you could run on your laptop. If you were the only person managing all of the units within your department, you could have you could import your units via IP into Solstice Dashboard and manage the devices that way. So you'll notice we've got appearance and settings for what I'm calling HSEC 7150 cart. All the things I could do on the unit, I could do here. Network, same thing. All the things I could do on the unit, I could do here. Now I get into some extra things. I could set passwords. I could do the system stuff was, I think, under tools. Digital signage. This is new. You can't do this when you're only connected to each device. Digital signage is a feature where when the unit, you're going to be leaving your solstices on. Let's pretend that that's the splash screen that's always up, which in the group studies and focus studies, I believe that is the case. So you could point digital signage to the group studies and the focus booth ones so that it's constantly doing some kind of information sharing for you if that's what you want. Calendar, we don't do this yet because the feature set really isn't fleshed out, not in a way that's useful to us. First of all, it's not Google integrated. So at this point, we're going to say forget about it. But you could, once they go Google integrated, which I think is on the roadmap, we could point a specific calendar to our solstices and, for example, say what's booked in this room coming up, right? If we're going to start creating Google calendars for rooms, which for non-classroom spaces, again, that would be the group studies and the focus booths, those can be linked to Google calendars. There's no requirement that they're linked to Astra. And so if they are linked to a Google calendar, then once Google Calendar integration comes with Solstice, you could actually say this room has been booked from such time to such time. You could surface that to the Solstice. Message Center, this is a neat one. I don't know if you remember, but on the Solstice splash screen at the top of the bar, there's this thing that says, welcome to Immersive Solstice. If you need more information, go to immersivesolstice.com, something like that. We could change that to say, for example, right now ours says on this particular unit, it says this mobile presentation cart will only work if it's plugged into the correct jack, call 67800, option 1 for support. These are our mobile carts on the 7th floor. They function as proper solstices when they're plugged into the jacks in 7th floors. Any of the 7th floor ALC event space jacks will work with those carts. When you take that cart to another space, they're just display carts. They're not properly functioning solstice carts. So that's what that message means for us. You may not necessarily have a need for that this particular feature, or you might. I mean, libraries, you're going to want to customize some stuff, and simulation, I guess you will have use. Kepler. This is now what's called Solstice Cloud, and this is the third option. We're going to talk about this one later. Activity from within dashboard, you can see are users connected to devices? Are they posting? How much bandwidth is being used? right? So you could live manage your entire system from here to see how much activity is there, or is there a unit that is failing right now, right? Again, licensing is just like the when you're direct connected. This is where you deal with things like updating its firmware, and making sure things are updated. So you'll notice most of this is an outdated dashboard, so this isn't very accurate anymore. And that's one of the weaknesses of having dashboard on a local device. If only one person is managing, fine. Dashboard on a laptop, great. But if you have multiple people managing and everyone's running their own dashboard, at some point they're going to start being out of sync. So that's not a good idea, all right? And that's the reason why this one is outdated. We're not using this option anymore. So my personal dashboard no longer reflects what's currently accurate in our deployment. But anyway, having said that, the other thing is, this is new dashboard available. You want the dashboard to be the same version as the firmware. So 4.6 is on your firmware. You want 4.6 on your dashboard. You'll notice that I am out of date also. I think I got my dashboard up to 4.5, but now we've got 4.6 in some of our devices, and so it's telling me there's 4.6 to download. When you have dashboard behind your firmware on your devices, then you start to run into some configuration problems. So one of the caveats is always make sure that your dashboard is current with or ahead of the firmware versions that you have on your solstices. And then here's SDS. So there's a tab here where we can sort of see, I can see the whole discovery service, and this is it. So this is telling me what's pointed. Okay, no big deal, right? So you can manage from a local dashboard. So this is an important tool. Now, the way you're probably going to want to go is this one here, at the very least now. So now we're at somewhere that's a little more useful to you, maybe. This is the dashboard that HST set up for us on one of their servers. It's actually set up on the same server as the Solstice Discovery Service. And so one dashboard that multiple people have access to, so that multiple people can manage, but they're not throwing anything out of sync. That's the basic idea of this. So you'll notice now this is a much fuller list of units. I've got a bunch of library units here that are still sitting on 4.2. Oh, actually, no. These might not be library. Well, some of these are, yeah. 101A, 150A, 150AH. Yeah, those are library units that are sitting on 4.2. I've got some other units here. Some of these are simulations sitting on 4.3. Yeah, so we want to get those firmwares up to 4.6 as soon as possible. Those old ones are the ones that were probably failing during punch list. Anyway, so this dashboard perfectly mirrors the local dashboard, except that it's a single instance sitting on a server somewhere that multiple people can get access to, and you could decide who has access to this. You go to reach out to HST and ask for username and password. You would use remote desktop on your computer to access this. So I'm not going to go through most of the features about this, but this is where you probably want to be. So we have, if I've done my work correctly, we should have all of the solstices in this dashboard. Of course, now I'm looking at 152 rather than 170, so I probably am missing some. So I'm going to figure out what's missing. But this is the place you want to land at the very least to start managing your stuff. And again, if I were to go to is 5130, I think that is Faculty Commons, right? So libraries, this is one of yours. So you could put a splash screen up saying, "Welcome to Faculty Commons," blah 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 blah. You would give it a more specific name. This is a Jack name rather than a room name, so you'll want to change that. Do you want to use digital signage on it? You know, that kind of thing. So again, the idea is you choose the unit that you're managing. You go into the tabs and you do the work that you need to do, okay? If I go to network, the thing that I do want to point out that you all have to do, here it is. Display discovery. So you'll notice these two fields are blank right now. That means 5130AU is currently not discoverable in our Solstice Discovery Service. We need to point the unit itself to the IP address of the server. And once we've pointed it there, it becomes part of that list that an end user walks into a room, sees the list. Oh, this is the one I want, and selects it. Okay. So while I'm here, I might as well say to you, you're going to want to manage making sure all of your devices are pointed to the Solstice Discovery system. You're going to want to manage name, appearance, making sure, well, it is already Ethernet. I'm pretty sure we took away Wi-Fi. Let's make sure we took away Wi-Fi. Yeah, so most of these we've already taken away Wi-Fi, but you're going to want to double check that anyway. And then you're going to want to make sure that it's updated. So this particular unit needs to go to 4.6. It's not there yet, so you want to make sure it's updated. Those are the basic ones. And then above that, everything else is kind of the customizable to your spaces. Okay, did that make sense? So we're at free. The last thing that I wanted to show you, let me just minimize this. Oop, I gotta minimize this. Is this one is pay for. So if you go to cloud.mersive.com, you get access to Kepler, which is now called Solstice Cloud, if you're paying for the subscription service for the Solstice devices. And right now, I believe we all are. We all have 3 years. Classroom Services, as far as I understand it, is going to continue paying subscription. Will libraries and simulation and social student services continue to pay? That's up to you. So if you do continue to pay, or at least for the next 3 years, you could have access to cloud and create your own cloud instance. And why would you want to do that? Because you want to use some of the template management tools that cloud offers. So this is what cloud looks like. I can click monitor. So this is my dashboard. No big deal. Let's forget about it at this point. But I can look at all of our units that are in cloud, and it tells me what's up and how long has it been up for and what version it's on. When I go to deployment, it tells me the IP address that it's on. I can remove things from the cloud when if I accidentally have libraries in here, I could remove it from ours so that we're not the ones managing it. Right, so it's giving you some of these other things, these other tools that you don't quite get in dashboard. You could surface it in dashboard one by one. This is giving me the whole kit and caboodle. It gives me alerts, and I could send myself emails when pods are unreachable, when someone is rebooting a pod, when a pod is unassigned from a template. That's typically like a software failure bit. So I could get emails for certain error notifications, but the management one, that's the one that I'm finding most useful, mostly because that's the place I'm in, and I've got all these pods. Now let's pretend that I'm looking at all of the group study rooms, and I want the group study rooms to have uniformity. And I forget how many group studies you have. You've got a bunch. I could click a bunch of these pods and then assign them specific templates. So I create a template once. I create a template under the welcome screen so that they all have the same image with the same message, right? And that, click on with the instruction set. So I create a template for the instruction set, and then I could assign it to all 50 pods if I wanted to in one go, rather than going into each pod and making that change under the appearance tab. I could, for digital signage, point them all to a specific digital signage source rather than going into each pod. So in dashboard, I would have to go into each pod remotely and do that. In cloud, I can create a single template, and point that template to a bunch of pods, and they all get the work. So this is one of the neat things about it, is that management of these is great. Now, if you're going to be setting and forgetting, maybe you use cloud once and get them all set up, and then when you expire, you don't use it. That's certainly up to you. But if you're going to be kind of moving in and out of your pods, and you're changing messaging from time to time, and you're needing to make let's go to networks. You need to make network changes from time to time. For example, take a look here. I've done the no Wi-Fi template on all of our classroom services ones. So that basically means they aren't using Wi-Fi. So instead of me going into each device, and unchecking the box, I simply created the template here and then pointed the template to all what it is, 120, I think, or whatever it is in our particular bucket. Discovery. Oh, like here. So I need to assign. It looks like there's a bunch. Well, a bunch of new ones aren't going to show up in Discovery until I add them to the template. So there we go. I have to make that change. And then there are settings templates. Security. Do I want to put a password or anything? The time. Power management. Do we have them reboot in the middle of the night? I think right now they do by default. It's 2 a.m. I believe, or 3 a.m. So anyway. This is one of the great things about it. And then the other great thing about it is I can mass update. So instead of going into each device and update, I go here, select all the units that are out of, first I come here and then select all the units that are not up to date and then just click go and they'll all get updated. So for 120 units, that's kind of great for us. Where we're imagining we're going to get some great use out of this is the analytics, where we can figure out what are our busy pods and how much use are they getting and how many what's their meeting duration, all of these things. I think that would be pretty important, and that might be important, I imagine, for libraries because you've got these group study sessions all over the place. Maybe you want to figure out what are your hotspots. And then categories, I haven't started using this yet, but basically this is where we would organize our pods into these ones are auditoriums, and these ones are just small spaces, and these ones are the medium-sized conference rooms, or whatever kind of categories we want to create. All right. Active learning. Now this is the big one. This is a pay for, so it's not yet here. We haven't yet paid for it, but the notion behind active learning is we could have multiple pods in a room and then start sharing things from pod to pod, which currently we can't do. Right now, the pods are connected to the AV system. So if we want to send stuff from the pod to the system, that's great. But if we want to send stuff from another pod out to all the pods, we can't do that. Active learning does that. The Faculty Commons Classroom probably is one place where this might be useful. But it is a pay for. And we in Classroom Services are considering and are leading heavily towards adding it. I think it just needs a budget. Well, obviously it needs a budget. We just haven't determined it yet. But once that's turned on, it's here in Cloud that you manage active learning, not in Dashboard. So that's the other reason why you're going to want to maintain your subscription service in order to have access to Cloud. Okay, I don't know how long this has been going for. This has been going longer than I probably wanted to. This is it. I just wanted to sort of lay a foundation, and then we can meet and talk about Solstice management moving forward. Basic set, as I said again, if everyone goes into Cloud, each of us will have our own Cloud instance so that we're only managing our spaces, but all of our units go into a single dashboard. Okay? Is one sort of structure and a single dashboard, and it goes into a single Solstice discovery service. So we are also all in dashboard for some of the specific things that dashboard is good for, but then for mass management, we're all working in our own clouds. Okay, so troubleshooting a device would probably be dashboard or going directly into the device itself, because if you don't do the troubleshooting from Cloud, it just tells you got a problem here. You could reboot from Cloud a specific device, but it's better to sort of operate in dashboard when at least from my experience. So that's kind of the relationship. Or ask HST to set up different dashboards for each and silo them off, and then whether or not you keep your Cloud, at least you are separated off in your own dashboard maintained by HST, so there may be some payment there to HST. And so then you're doing your own management within dashboard. And then, the worst option obviously is you're going into each unit individually, either via the IP or by plugging into the unit. So did that make sense? Let me know questions. And I'm looking forward to a meeting when we can all get together and talk about this. All right. Thanks. Bye.